All right, let's get into it. Tucked away deep inside our buildings, there's this hidden piece of tech that's supposed to be saving a colossal amount of energy. It's called a heat recovery wheel, and when it works, oh, it's brilliant. But when it fails spectacularly. So today, we're going to explore the engineering genius and the critical, sometimes catastrophic flaws of this really essential device. So here's what we've got lined up. First, we'll look at the huge energy problem these wheels are meant to solve. Then, we're going to uncover their total efficiency secret. We'll get into the really tricky business of keeping clean air clean, see what happens when these good wheels go bad, and wrap up with the simple checklist that can make all the difference. Okay, so here's the core problem. Fresh air is incredibly expensive. I mean, think about it. In humid climates, just cooling and dehumidifying the outside air you have to bring into a building can eat up a staggering 40% of its entire energy load. That is a massive, constant drain on power. It's basically like leaving a giant window wide open 24/7, but for your building's entire energy bill. And this is where our hero enters the story, the heat recovery wheel. It's a deceptively simple-looking device, but it is an absolute engineering marvel designed to attack that exact problem. It can capture and recycle anywhere from 70 to, get this, 90% of the energy from the air you're already exhausting anyway. The potential savings are just enormous, which is exactly why getting this right is so important. So what is it that makes this spinning wheel so ridiculously effective? Well, the secret lies in understanding what total energy really means in an HVAC system. And here's a hint. It's not just about temperature. Right, so what we're really talking about here is an energy recovery ventilator, or ERV. And this is the crucial point, so listen up. It doesn't just transfer temperature, what engineers call sensible heat, the kind you can actually feel. It also transfers moisture, or latent heat. That's all the hidden energy tied up in humidity. It's like a 2-for-1 energy deal. And that ability to handle moisture is what separates it from its cousin, the HRV. A standard heat recovery ventilator is a sensible-only device. It moves heat, sure, but not humidity. The ERV, on the other hand, is what's called a total enthalpic device. That's just a fancy way of saying it captures the total energy, both the heat and the humidity, the whole shebang. And wow, this chart just says it all. Look at this performance gap. In the summer, a simple plate exchanger and HRV might be okay at transferring temperature, but its total effectiveness is only 29% because it completely ignores humidity. The ERV wheel, by managing both, hits a total effectiveness of 75% or even higher. I mean, it is not even a close competition. Okay, so we've established the wheel is incredibly efficient, but this brings us to its first major challenge. You're taking stale, potentially germ-filled exhaust air and passing it inches, literally inches away from your fresh supply air. So how in the world do you recover the energy without mixing all the bad stuff back in? Let's make this real. Can you safely take the air you're pulling out of a public restroom, run it through one of these wheels, and not contaminate the fresh air you're about to pump into the rest of the building? Well, the answer is yes, but only if you follow the rules. And those rules are set by a standard called ASHRAE 62.1. It basically classifies air based on how dirty it is. For Class 2 air, like from a restroom, you're allowed a leakage, what engineers call the exhaust air transfer ratio, or EATR, of under 10%. So less than 10% of the bad air can mix with the good. For more contaminated Class 3 air, from kitchens or labs, it has to be under 5%. And for the really hazardous Class 4 air, nope. Zero leakage allowed. You can't even use a wheel, period. So how do engineers meet those super strict leakage standards? They use this clever little device called a purge sector. It's basically a stationary plate that's designed to clean out the wheel as it spins, and it uses a tiny bit of the fresh air to do the job. Pretty smart. So here's how it works. As the wheel rotates out of the exhaust stream, it's got stale air trapped inside its honeycomb media. Now, just before that section enters the fresh air supply, the purge plate diverts a little bit of clean air backwards through the wheel, blowing out or purging that trapped exhaust. This one simple action can knock contamination down from around 4% to just 1%. That's how you keep the air clean. We've solved the air quality problem, but that brings us to the second and honestly far more dramatic issue. These elegant machines can, and absolutely do, physically destroy themselves. And it's often because of impossibly small microscopic manufacturing errors. There are 3 main ways this whole thing goes sideways. First is delamination. The glue holding the wheel together at the hub just gives up and the whole thing collapses. Second, the spokes can bend, just a tiny bit, which causes the wheel to rub against its seals and literally grind itself away. But the third one is the most insidious. Now get this, because this is where it gets crazy. A manufacturer might use a central shaft with a tolerance of just 0.004 of an inch. That's about the thickness of a human hair. It sounds incredibly precise, right? But in this kind of high-speed environment, it's not precise enough. That tiny, tiny gap can cause a wobble that results in a massive quarter-inch gouge in the wheel media as it slams into the frame over and over. And the end result of these failures, it's always the same. This expensive, highly efficient piece of engineering literally grinds itself to pieces, becoming nothing more than a giant, useless paperweight that actually blocks the airflow instead of helping it. What a waste. So does all this mean the technology is a failure? Absolutely not. It just means that precision engineering requires precision maintenance. See, with the right care, these wheels don't have to end up as scrap metal. There's a simple technician's checklist that can prevent these catastrophic failures and make sure this hero of efficiency actually gets to live up to its promise. And this is it. This is the checklist for a long and healthy life. First up, every month, check the belt tension. Too loose, it slips and wastes energy. Too tight, you'll destroy the bearings. Next, every 3 to 6 months, the wheel itself needs cleaning. If those tiny channels get clogged with dust, your efficiency can drop all the way to 0. And finally, you've got to lubricate the bearings according to the manual. These are simple, basic steps, but they are absolutely critical. Because here's the thing you have to remember. A heat recovery wheel isn't designed to last for just 5 years. When it's specified, installed, and maintained correctly, it has a design life of 25 years. It's an investment in long-term efficiency, not some disposable part. So, it all comes down to this. A heat recovery wheel can be a true hero of energy efficiency, or it can be a cautionary tale of mechanical failure. The difference, as we've seen, really lies in the details. Which brings us to the final question you should be asking. Is your building actually saving energy, or is it just spinning its wheels?